and welcome to a special interview we have here today with the directors of College of Mount St. Vincent's, A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I'm here with the directors. We have our director, John Salamak, and we have our assistant director, Julia Polikoff. Hi, guys. How's it going?
It's good.
How you guys been working good on the show?
Yeah.
How have you guys been working good on the show? Phenomenal. I'm very well, thanks for asking.
Same stuff, different day.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel it.
Well, let's get to some questions. So what was your first thought when you pictured directing A Midsummer Night's Dream?
Could you elaborate on that?
Like, what did you first, kind of think of when, the idea came about to do this play?
Like, what did we imagine for the show, or what did we imagine directing would be like? Because those are very different questions.
You guys could answer both.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Go first.
Well, I was excited. This is my first time. Oh my God. This is my first time directing a show. Never done it before, and that's exciting because I feel like I always have a lot of input when I do shows, and I can't really share that input because I'm professional for actors to tell other actors what to do. But now that I have a sense of authority, I can share my opinions with others and put forth my creative ideas towards the production. And it's exciting stuff.
What about you, John? Do you have any words to say on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm by no means a veteran to the whole directing thing. My first and only directorial thing that I've ever done was actually the CMSV Players production of Footloose, which was last year. And that was kind of my first step into it, and I kind of realized that I enjoyed everything about it. So when the CMSV Players had asked me to direct Midsummer Night's Dream again, it was like absolutely, it was a complete honor. And I think the real difficulty that I had with at the very beginning was kind of the direction that I wanted to take the show in, because it's Shakespeare. Shakespeare is difficult, and if you aren't well versed in understanding what Shakespeare is saying in his shows, then it can be very confusing. And Midsummer is a completely different beast, because the plot's incredibly confusing and the words are incredibly confusing as well. So the process that I had was, how can I make Shakespeare relevant to primarily the students at CMSV? And the whole idea that I kind of had for the show was, let's make it as quirky and as silly as humanly possible. Because it is one of Shakespeare's comedies. It's a very lighthearted show, and it has a nice happy ending. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's without humor. And while there are still a few lines here and there, I think the humor that I really wanted to grab from the whole show was really not so much in the lines, but in the physical acting and the characterizations of the characters, like Puck and Theseus and Hippolyta. So like all the characters have this their own unique personality that is completely far away from what Shakespeare had originally intended. So we're taking a lot of creative liberties with the show, which is really like where I wanted to take it. Yeah.
Well, how has your vision grown, and how has it been changed, working with the people that are in the show?
That's actually excellent question. And I want to answer that first because I think a lot of the success of how the show is running so far is due completely in part to the cast members. I can't speak for Julia, but my own directorial way is to allow the actors to really create their characters on their own. And I take pride in letting the students, specifically the students at CMSV, take ownership of who they create. So for characters, like minor characters like the mechanicals, like like Snug, and Starveling and Snout, I really have the students creating their own characters. And there are a lot of ideas that are actually brought forward by the cast that I had never even thought of. Like, for example, creating Theseus to become like an eccentric dad figure was something that kind of happened halfway through rehearsals. And when the student who plays Theseus, Thomas, brought that idea up to me, I was like, I absolutely love it. And ever since he kind of adapted that persona for his character, it's been very difficult for everyone to keep a straight face on stage. And I think it creates that character so much more. So a lot of it is not in part to my directing or Julia's directing. It really is in part to the cast and how they want to use their characters.
Well, Julia, how do you feel about this since it's your first time directing a show?
John's like head honcho on this one. I feel like my role as assistant director is just a lot of verifying what his image is, just him telling me how does this look, and I say it's good, and I throw in my ideas. But definitely the show has definitely grown thanks to John's directing and the cast members. I feel like the show keeps getting progressively sillier and sillier, but in a good way. I like that, things like Theseus becoming like a dad, and like we kind of made it so like Snout almost has like a crush on Bottom. I kind of like how that was starting to happen. I like the little jokes we put in. I like the fact that we have silly props that we're excited to get. The show's growing. It's not what we thought it would be because we expected it to be, like the way it was, but it's definitely more than that now. It's more than what we thought it would be, and that's one of the most important things.
Well, it seems like you guys have had a lovely time with the cast and have really grown together as a family. So, even though you guys have like this wonderful family and all like working together very well, what would you say is the biggest obstacle you faced thus far?
It's a good one.
Yeah. I know sometimes it's kind of hard to stay super serious at rehearsals. People get distracted, people start chatting, people laugh, and like those things are fine because we're human. It happens to all of us. But now we're in crunch time, and I believe in the cast that they'll bring it together for this. But I am a little bout of worry in my mind that like maybe we'll get a little distracted in our final weeks of preparation.
Yeah, I think the real like whimsical nature of the show really tends to having a lot of the cast members having a lot of fun on stage, but almost a little too much fun. And while the show is hilarious and everyone has so much fun being their character and being on stage, it can be a little difficult. And I think just as a follow-up, I think the other really difficult thing for not just for us but for the cast as well is knowing lines. I'm not saying that the cast isn't off book or anything, but like the most difficult part I think about any Shakespeare show is the text and the context that Shakespeare puts his words and his thoughts into. And for anybody who hasn't tried to memorize anything Shakespearean before, it's very difficult. I personally have never done it before, and I had trouble getting off book. And that's where Julia and I step in, not only as directors but as an aid to the cast to show them like, hey, we have time available that we're gonna dedicate to you guys so you're able to not only know your lines but understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I didn't think of that at first, and then I realized that's like a big thing right now because there's like we have a student, Thomas. He has 600 lines.
Close with some of the cuts that we've made, like 450, 500.
He has most lines of anyone in the show, and we feel bad for him because he's got so many lines, but at the same time, he's doing really well learning them. But there are characters with so many lines that I can't even fathom having to learn them all.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that I don't have to learn lines like that.
Yeah, you have like a page and a half and you're good, and that's about it.
Yeah, I have like 2 small paragraphs and then like one-liners.
Yeah, same.
Good stuff. The pros of being director, if you have to jump in, it's small parts. And even if people like mess up during the show, even if people forget lines, like it's Shakespeare, no one knows the exact words. If you mess up a line here or there, with any show, that really doesn't really make a difference because the show's still a show. No, the audience doesn't know tiny differences. You say great instead of amazing, like no one's gonna know the difference.
How dare you say that? I'm leaving. Like that's not
Demetrius is a good man.
like that's not gonna happen, or at least I hope it doesn't happen. But
no, someone's being in the audience with a book saying wrong.
Incorrect line there. I hope that doesn't happen. And that's the thing. Like Shakespeare for me is all about his work has been so general, and I think the most important thing about Shakespeare is understanding that it's so general and it's so open that you can take those creative liberties into forming a show that is to your liking. So when people, fudge a word, they miss a line or two here and there, it's not, they're not chastised for it because they still understand the character, they still understand what they're saying, and that's the most important thing about it.
Well, along with the different text I see and the different vernacular and the use of it in the show, I see that you guys are also dealing with a different space. So please tell me, what is it like to direct a show for the Cahill Theater?
We have not worked in there yet, so I don't think we've had like the full experience of what it's going to be like to direct within Cahill, but we've been starting to prepare ourselves, doing staging that will make sense within Cahill. I know personally, I think I can speak for both of us, we're very excited to start working in there because it's such a unique space to work in. And there's always something like really nice and different, but different in a good way about working with a stage that has three sides that are viewed upon, like the 270 stage, how there's audience members on the left, the right, and the front. So it kind of opens up for more opportunity with staging and different things you can do within the staging of the show.
Yeah, the Cahill is definitely completely different than what we're used to. We are, Julia's been here, this is her second year here, and this is my third year being at the College of Mount St. Vincent, and we're just used to doing our shows in Hayes Auditorium, which is just a traditional auditorium. You have a stage left and you have a stage right, and that's how you enter and exit. To the point where it's like, if you go off stage left, it's very hard to enter stage right because you have to go around the gym, and it's very difficult. But Cahill makes things a lot easier, but at the same time more complicated, because not only is there a stage left and a stage right that you can enter via an archway, you can actually go freely between left and right without being seen by the audience. Additionally, there's another way to enter and exit the stage, which are through the wings, which adds kind of like almost to it like an audience feel to the show, because you can walk in from the wings and then go through the audience to get onto the stage, which is something that we're going to be utilizing a lot as well. But Cahill is definitely a challenge because for most of the students who are sophomores and above are used to Hayes. Nobody's used to Cahill. We never had the privilege or the honor to perform in Cahill. And just to throw it out there, the Red Monkey Theater Group, who has essentially beefed up Cahill from being just like a traditional black box theater to having an excellent stage, a lighting booth, a sound booth, and all this great stuff that Hayes Auditorium doesn't have, makes everything so much easier to work with. And it allows the actors to get used to a truss stage, because there's certain scenes in the show that are better viewed from certain sides of the audience. For example, Act 5, Scene 1, the Pyramus and Thisbe, which is like the culmination of the show, is best viewed by the audience that is sitting center stage. Whereas some scenes like the big fight scene between the lovers in Act 3 is best viewed by people on stage right. So there are so many different angles and different perspectives of the show where, if you're sitting on one stage, you'll see some other things that other parts of the audience won't see, but then you come back the next day and you sit at a different part of the stage and you get to see all the other stuff. So it's really cool that we get a lot of different perspective, and it really changes kind of the mood of the play depending on where you're sitting, and I think that adds just to the whimsical nature of Midsummer.
Well, it seems like you guys have had a great time working on the show so far, and I know I've gotten to see a couple of rehearsals, and it looks amazing from what I can see so far, so I can't wait for the show, as well as a bunch of other people I know are very excited to go see it. So out of all the things in the show, what are you most excited to see or to work with?
I have an answer for that one. Honestly, I'm excited to start seeing everything with the props and the costumes, because we're going to have some really awesome props and costumes. Because of the way we are taking the show with its whimsy and silliness, the props we've gotten definitely match that level of whimsy. And the costumes I'm excited for, because something about the costumes is based on which group within the show. There's the Athenians, the fairies, and the mechanicals, and there's different color schemes for each group. And I know that the fairies are making flower crowns right now, and John bought dresses for the fairies, and we got crowns for the king and the queen of the Athenians, and we got a lot of cool props coming in. We found stuff in the prop room, and I'm just really excited about seeing it all come together with the external things besides just the acting, which is already so great.
For me, I think the thing I'm most excited about with the show is the creative liberties that the cast is taking for their characters. There's a few things that Julia and I have come up with, and then there's a few things that the cast have come up with on their own. For example, there's a scene in the very beginning of the show where Puck introduces himself as a character, and in the middle of the show, the lights will go out and Puck will be replaced with a stool on stage, and Julia will actually be having a conversation with the stool, and it's going to be funny. There's a lot of scenes like that that I'm really excited to see how everyone reacts to, because it's not something that you would traditionally see in a Shakespearean play. You wouldn't see Tom Snout being absolutely in love with Bottom as much, almost to the extent that Titania does. There's no other show where you're going to see the character of Hippolyta being forgotten on stage by her husband Theseus to the point where she takes her phone out and just starts scrolling through Facebook. There's no other Shakespearean show that you're going to find that does things like this, that takes that amount of creative liberty and applies it to the show. There's parts where the character Helena will literally crawl on the ground because she is so submissive towards her lover Demetrius. There's a lot of things like that we put in the show just to spice it up and make it more fun.
I have a question for you. The Hippolyta phone thing, that was just because Amelia was on her phone once, and we were like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Because there are parts in the show where characters will just be standing on stage, and
sometimes during rehearsals, like if someone took their phone out, it was just funny that we just kept it in.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how a lot of the characterizations for the characters really came in, because they started as just little funny things here and there, and the cast would say, "Can I do X?" And we would be like, "That is an awesome idea. Let's do that." And they just grew from there, and I think that's really the charm with this show is, all the liberty that we're taking. Sometimes we push it a little too far, and Julia, as in this point, my left-hand woman, has to say, John, you're taking this a little too far. Now it's getting a little too ridiculous. And
could you name a scenario? Because I feel like it's on the tip of my, I can't think of anything particularly that has happened.
I think there was a point where I wanted to dress somebody in something absolutely ridiculous, and you were like, John, no. I don't remember exactly what it was, but there were many instances where you were like, I'm going to have to put my foot down as an assistant director there. And I'm okay.
I can't remember what it was, but yeah, I definitely remember something along those lines.
Yeah, but I think that's what I'm most excited about, is just really seeing all the fun little things that we're throwing into the show to make it more interesting for the students and the staff and the faculty to come to see it.
John will do nearly anything with directing. Someone throws out an idea, he's like, yeah, I'll try it. But there's been times I put out something super ridiculous. He's like, please don't say that, because we're already so far into the show and it's so ridiculous, and I don't want to put any more ideas in my own head.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it seems you two work very well together.
We have a very similar sense of humor.
Well, going along with that, what's your strategy? Strategy. There you go. Thanks, guys. What's your strategy for directing together?
I think this really interesting kind of synergy that I have with Julia for this run, because previously when I directed Footloose, I directed with Victoria, and we had a very unique relationship when we directed that as well. But I think for Julia and I, it's really, we keep each other in check, because like I said, the show can get very ridiculous, and we're there to kind of tell each other, this is getting too much, we have to dial it back, because even though it is Shakespeare, it is public domain, we can do a lot with it. There are some things that are going to go a little too far and a little over everyone's head. So we keep each other in check a lot. And
I thought something.
What?
When, because in the script, Titania, the Queen of the Fairies, it says Titania will come in with her train, her train of fairies, and he wanted a train, it was choo-choo!
I wanted to get a thing of wooden trains that Titania would come in and draw in. But that doesn't make any sense to anyone that doesn't have the script, because it says, enter Titania and her train of fairies. And so then Julia had to be like, John, you're going a little too far with that. So yeah. But I think that's really what Julia and I are. We keep each other in check, and we have really good ideas for the show. But then we'll pass them to each other. Julia will say, do you like this? One of the ideas was to create Oberon, who is the King of Fairies, played by Thomas, to be shirtless.
Yeah.
And that was Julia's idea. And originally, we didn't really have any other ideas for doing for Thomas's costume. And I was like, that's an awesome idea. So we'll bounce ideas off of each other for all characters, all scenes, blocking placements, everything like that.
Yeah.
And like Julia said, we have a very similar sense of humor. So when we're able to laugh about the same thing, then we know that it's it's going to a good place because the cast will find it funny as well.
That's my train of thought. Choo choo. So I know, like, with also strategy in terms of like the actual directing like process, like going out there and directing, it's a lot of John doing, like, he does most of the work. I'm definitely like half the amount of director that John is. Like, he goes up there and he tells everyone where to stand and like what to do, and like I'm just in the audience like,
Yes.
you're good. He's like, how's that look? And I'm like, you're good. It's fun working with John. So I think I like the fact that we can talk to each other about things that we're feeling about the show. Like, I'm never afraid to be like, John, I like this scene, or John, I don't think it's a good idea. Like, the fact that we have this open path of communication with what we think are good ideas and bad ideas with the show and what each other thinks, I think that's the most important thing. Because if we were afraid to tell each other how we felt about the show, then it wouldn't make for a healthy relationship as directors.
Ditto.
Well, with all the difficulties that you guys have mentioned before and all the fun, between all of that, how do you keep people excited and motivated for the show?
Honestly, they're already motivated. Like, I really think that the motivation, we don't have to, it's not extrinsic,
Extrinsic? I don't know what you're trying to say.
It's intrinsic. Extrinsic. It's intrinsic motivation. Like, everybody, the motivation is within the people. I feel so bad this is going to be seen by people. I mean this interview, not the show. I'm very excited for the show. I think, people are motivated not because we've encouraged them to be motivated, but because they actually want this, because they see how much fun this is going to be, and they see the direction the show is being taken in. And there's people who've never done theater before, and they're just doing this now, and they're even motivated because I think they're seeing how well it's coming together and how much fun it's going to be to perform.
Yeah, I completely, she took the words right out of my mouth. I think people are, dedicated towards the show because they want to be. I've never seen a cast member in the show who, like, I thought was faltering because there was just too much going on in their lives. Granted, there are a lot of people in the cast who are involved in other clubs, who are, quote unquote difficult majors. Like, there's so many people that are dealing with so many other things, yet every night they come to rehearsal, they're dedicated, they get everything done, they listen to what I have to say, they listen to what Julia and the e-board of players and the rest of the cast has to say. They listen and they take everything in stride. During this time, this is when, I personally, like, whenever I've been in shows, I've burned out. And I haven't done it for the show, even though the show has pretty much taken up our lives at this point because, we're 11 days from curtain. But, like, there are students who have, either never done theater or very little, who would literally show up to auditions in their Ninja Turtle pajamas and was like,
that's what I thought. Immediately,
like,
the first person I thought of was, his name's Sean Carr. He's great.
He messaged me on Friday and said, hey, John, I'm having some difficulty, with my lines. Can I meet with you this weekend? And every single time that I met with him, we met for like an hour and a half, and we went for a half hour the day after to just go over his lines. And like, you learn so much more about, your cast members, not only with them as a group, but with them one-on-one. And it was shocking to me about how, like, dedicated he was to the show. And I'm not saying that I thought that he wasn't dedicated, but it was
show.
Yeah, it was like something that's very new to him, that he was just kind of like dragged to his audition, and we were like, you know what, that's Lysander, because A, we don't have a lot of guys, and B, because he takes a very interesting take on the character, and when he does that, it's just so interesting to see how dedicated people are even outside of rehearsal. So you see them in rehearsal and they do it, and then you see them outside and it's even more so. So people, they honestly just motivate themselves. I mean, I don't really think there's anything that Julia and I have done specifically to allow the cast that we can do to motivate them. They just did it themselves, which kind of makes our job a little easier, honestly. Naturally, if someone falters, we would know how to handle it, but for the most part, everyone's been really on point, which is completely new to me. I've never been part of a show where everyone has just been consistently there, aware, and on point and dedicated to what they're doing.
I was hoping you'd find another word that rhymes with there and aware. And prepare.
There.
Whenever you bring up Sean now, I think of when he walked into his audition, we're like, oh, what brought you here today? And he goes, I was doing laundry, and my buddy Tom came up to me and said, hey, you should audition for the show. And then I came here. Was I supposed to dress up? I'm in my pajamas. I'm in my Ninja Turtle pajamas. Does that go with you guys? Favorite thing. Because now he's a lead, and he's doing a really great job. And he brings so much joy to us because he has this very, just naturally monotone voice. And so he says his lines, and it's so, sort of for deadpan, but in this really endearing way.
Yeah. And it's cast members like him. It's cast members like some of the mechanicals, like Shannon and Jasmine. They come and then they're completely dedicated to what they're doing for those 3 hours, and then they go out. And then I see them around campus, and they're excited to come to rehearsal. And I think if you can make your cast excited to come to rehearsal, then you're doing a good thing as a director.
Well, going along with what you said earlier, John, is it hard to juggle directing the show and then keeping up with your daily lives?
I think what's most important about keeping that director life balance is making the show, me personally, I want to be so dedicated to the show that it becomes a part of my daily life. But of course there are times where, I have to say, I'm sorry, I can't meet with you about your lines because I have to go and sleep, or I have to go into the city to go do something, or I have to go to work. That's also another thing that, I have to do sometimes. And, it can be very difficult, but I think if you really like what you do, if you really like directing, if you really like being in the theater environment, then that becomes your daily life. That becomes a part of your routine and your regimen that you don't mind going to. There's never been a time where I've laid in my bed and go, ugh, I don't want to go to rehearsal, because I'm excited. I'm excited to go there and to see what new stuff the cast has to bring, what ideas will just pop into Julia's head or my head, or
someone else's head.
Or someone else's head. It's just great because there's always something new to look forward to. And I think that when you incorporate those new things into the show, it becomes that much more successful and that much more fun to do.
Sometimes, it'll be nighttime and I'm like, wow, I wish I could sleep right now. But there's also times where I have a night class and I'm like, I don't want to go to this night class. I want to be at rehearsal, not because I don't like the night class. The night class is very fun. It's an acting class. But I'd rather be at rehearsal because I want to make sure that I'm there for everything. It's this show has been like having a baby. I want to watch its first steps and its first words. And I feel like if I'm not at a rehearsal and I miss something, I feel so out of the loop. I should have been there for that, because I'm watching this baby grow into a beautiful adult, and this show's gonna be like graduation.
Yes.
Our baby made it.
Well, closing up here, do you guys have any final words for the cast and for the crew?
Good job. I'm really proud of you guys.
Yeah.
I think everyone's done a really great job. There's not a single person who I'd be, not a single person who I think to myself, they could do better, because everyone's doing their best. And it's so incredibly amazing how dedicated and how talented everyone in the cast is, people who are veteran actors and people who are extremely new to the craft. And I'm really proud of the e-board and all they've done in contributing to ideas and motivation of the cast, and funding for props and costumes and advertisement. And I'm really proud of John, who technically is a cast member, but also my head director. And I'm proud of all the work he's put into this show. And I'm proud of myself too, because this is hard. It's not hard, but it's a little hard. It's like a crust of a pie. It's kind of hard, but not completely.
But you can still bite it.
Yeah.
That's an awesome analogy. Towards the cast, I'm grateful, really. I'm grateful that the individuals who decided to go and audition for the show were very receptive of who they were given as parts, whether it was a character that had 5 lines, or whether it was a character that had 500 lines. They accepted and they understood that the weight of that character was on them, and they took it in stride. I'm grateful for cast members who showed up last minute, who were like, I really want to be a part of the show. Do you have any openings? And just by luck having it, there were. So I'm really grateful for the individuals who jumped in and were raring to take up any part that Julia and I had requested them as. I'm really happy for how excited everyone is about the show. I'm blessed really to work with such an awesome cast. They're all great in their own individual ways. There's not a duplicate of another person on any other cast, and just it's been great. And you know, it's still 11 days. Like we still have all this week and all next week, and then the show. But you know, it still feels like the show is like tomorrow. And you know, while thank God it's not, because you know we still have to clean up a little bit. It's going to be weird when it's over. And I feel like a lot of directors say that, and a lot of cast members say that about every show that they're in. Like, oh, it's weird. What am I going to do with all of my time? But like, I really think that this is going to be different for the students that are in this cast, because like you guys put so much into it and so much dedication for the show, not only into your own characters but into everyone else's characters. So it's going to be weird. I'm not going to be able to look at Victoria and think Victoria anymore. I'm going to think Hermia. I'm not going to be able to look at Brandon anymore. I'm going to think Demetrius. Like,
Well, I'm still going to think Victoria and Brandon, but
I won't.
am I still Vi Moore? Am I still...
Oh, you're always Vi Moore to me.
I was a crying mom.
Yeah, you were. So, but seriously, like I'm absolutely blessed to have everyone work with me as well as they've done, and I can't wait for this week, and I can't wait for next week once we start moving into Cahill to do to do blocking in there. Once we start painting the set, once we start doing all the stuff to just kind of tie up all the loose ends. I'm grateful, and I can't wait to finish out. I can't wait to see our child graduate. I can't wait to bite the crust of the pie.
I'm also really grateful in the show for how well everybody was casted. Like, when we were like doing the casting, everything just kind of like fit in like puzzle pieces. Like, there was nobody where we were like, oh, they don't really feel right for this part, but we're going to put them in anyways. Like, everyone just fit right into their part. It was almost uncanny.
Good word.
Uncanny?
Yeah.
Because this feels like Thanksgiving. Things I'm grateful for, things I'm blessed for. I'd like to thank my parents.
I'd like to thank the Academy.
Wait for the music to swell in as it like consumes anything that I'm saying.
Yeah, can we do that? Cool, okay.
And live.
Well, thank you guys for coming in and being able to talk to us about the show.
Thank you for
Please,
having
if
us.
you can, go and see the show.
And go
It's gonna be a
vote.
great show. Go vote tomorrow. Most of all, go see the show.
I thought you were telling me to go see the show. I was like, nah. I got plans. I have to water my goldfish.
Well, the show is November 18th, correct?
18th and 19th at 7 o'clock, and the 20th at 2 o'clock.
Well, go see the show if you're able to, and have a great night. Thank you for watching.
Good evening.
I think it just missed me.